Kidnapped at gunpoint while leaving work, Erinn Orcutt was beaten and raped inside her SUV. The horrifying assault went on for more than an hour before she finally broke free and fled for her life.
I think he was surprised that she escaped, and then he went into a panic-type mode.
But in his own rush to get away, the attacker left behind plenty of evidence.
We were able to locate his gun, her clothing, biological fluids, and his sunglasses.
And right there, taped on the bottom of the gun's magazine, was their biggest clue: the suspect's name. But strangely, it was a labeling technique Detective Robert Marquez knew very well.
Normally, police officers, they will put their name on the bottom of the magazine in case they have to let somebody else use their magazine in a gunfight.
What did you think when you saw that?
I was shocked.
And his shock was about to turn to outrage. As cops were investigating Erinn's abduction, and Officer Anthony Orban from the nearby city of Westminster was reporting his gun missing or stolen in the Ontario area.
They kind of put two and two together and they decided, hey, this is related.
But related how? Detectives knew either the sick man who kidnapped and raped Erinn had used a cop's gun, or the demented attacker was a cop himself. Officer Orban was tracked down to a nearby parking lot where he was helping a friend and fellow officer find his truck.
Yes, Jeffrey Jelinek was a correctional officer for the state of California.
Orban and Jelinek matched the descriptions Erinn had given of her attacker and his accomplice. They even had her keys. Erinn was soon brought over to ID them both.
There was, I don't know, maybe 10 cop cars with floodlights just lighting him up. I've never seen anything like that before, but they pulled right up and let me ID him, and as soon as I did, they took me back to the hospital.
How did that sit with you when you learned that your attacker was a police officer?
My initial thought was, oh my gosh, but nobody's ever going to seek justice for this because he's one of them. I was very fortunate to be wrong.
Officers Orban and Jelinek were immediately taken into custody. Suddenly, both claimed they couldn't remember a thing.
Why is your gun in this girl's car? I don't know. Do you remember pulling down your pants? No. Why were you guys over by Dave & Buster's? I don't know. Do you remember following the girl to the car? I don't.
In this exclusive video obtained by Crime Watch Daily, Officer Orban claims he drank too many margaritas at lunch, causing him to black out.
I haven't drank in a very long time.
But what he did admit to detectives corroborated what Erinn tearfully revealed.
I've been on those the antidepressants, and it just kills your sex drive. Does it cause you to have a hard time? I usually can't even... So you have trouble getting... Yes.
After a short time behind bars, Officer Jelinek apparently regained some of his memory.
He told us at the very end of his interrogation, you might want to look at the photos. And I said, what photos? And he said, the photos on my phone. I went, what?
On his phone, all the pictures Anthony Orban snapped while forcing Erinn to perform sex acts on him.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I just thought, this poor girl.
He sent those photos to Jelinek. Why?
I think they were playing some type of sick game and tried to outdo each other.
Even though his friend caved, Anthony was sticking to his script.
You had a chance to talk to Jeff a little bit more. He's not losing his whole career for you. What? I don't remember anything. He didn't remember anything either, but all of a sudden now, after sitting in the... I don't remember anything.
Detectives say even when they weren't in the room, Officer Orban kept up the charade.
This has got to be a bad dream. What is going on? What the...
Because he knows the camera's there, he's an investigator himself, he's a police officer.
He was assigned to sex investigations.
Wait, he's a sex crimes officer?
Yes.
What type of irony is this? How are you in disbelief?
Absolutely.
And in yet another shocking twist, the same antidepressant that Officer Orban blamed for his impotence problem, he also blamed for the assault on Erinn.
He claimed that he had taken Zoloft while he was drinking alcohol.
So he said the Zoloft made him do it.
That's correct.
Officer Orban pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, claiming the Zoloft left him unconscious during the attack.
I was pissed. So pissed. So many people are on Zoloft and they're not gonna go off and rape somebody and kidnap them at gunpoint. It was an excuse. It was excuse after excuse after excuse. And it was all about him being the victim.
But there was an actual victim, Erinn Orcutt. Though the terror from a rape at gunpoint was over and her attacker behind bars, she was now facing a second frightening ordeal.
He was making phone calls that were being recorded from the jail, making statements like it would be a lot easier if the witness wasn't around. And I was getting weird phone calls, and I did get followed on the freeway, and we didn't know if it was related or not, but I was terrified.
The district attorney's office was so worried about possible retaliation, Erinn had to remain in seclusion during the trial.
They did everything in their power aside from witness protection just to make sure that I was safe.
She was only allowed to attend Orban's trial the day she testified and the day the verdicts were handed down.
When they found him guilty on all counts and sane, I broke. I broke down because at that point I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's an end to this now.
Jurors rejected his insanity defense, finding Anthony Orban guilty of kidnapping, rape, and multiple counts of sexual assault. 8 felony counts in all. His accomplice, Jeff Jelinek, had testified against him in court, agreeing to plead no contest in exchange for a lighter sentence.
Jelinek was eventually sentenced to 5 years. After he was released, he went back to live with his mom and dad back east.
2.5 years after she was kidnapped and raped, Erinn was going to confront her attacker in court. On sentencing day, a brave Erinn was more than ready.
I got a phone call, and they told me, you may not have to even come down today. They found him dead in his cell.
Anthony Orban committed suicide by hanging himself.
I needed that closure, and I was just in tears. I had been right there willing to forgive him. And once that happened, I was finding it very hard to cling to that forgiveness.
In a highly unusual and unprecedented move, the judge still allowed Erinn to read her victim impact statement, while Anthony's family respectfully remained in court and listened.
No amount of reasoning can justify the horrors that I was forced to endure that day, and those who tried should be ashamed of themselves. I am disappointed that a person in your position would have behaved in such a way, and that you tried to get away with it instead of owning up to your actions like a real man. But then, a real man would never have kidnapped, raped, beaten, and terrorized a woman. I choose to live my life and take back any power that your actions may have had over me. To do so, I have to do something that I have struggled with and never thought I would be able to do. I forgive you.
So, in your heart, you found room to forgive him.
You can't move on without doing so.
Erinn has moved on, but it hasn't been easy. Diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, Erinn has suffered from panic attacks and depression. And yet, this strong survivor refuses to break.
And it was either, okay, get back up and figure your life out, or you're gonna cling to it as a crutch and be that person that's just a victim forever. And I wasn't about to be a victim.
If he had not taken his own life, Anthony Orban would have spent the rest of it behind bars. The judge in the case revealed she was planning to sentence him to 82 years to life in prison, followed by a 95-year sentence. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.